Alright, hello to all my guys, gals, and non-binary pals out there across the electrical ocean. This is Jazzman back with another game, this time between Badgerale playing full faction Underdepths as per usual, and Hermaios playing full faction Forsaken Waste. And let's see, we've got Badgerale contesting this font down here against a Shadecaster with Deep Elf Mercenary. So it's kind of weird seeing actually a normal Deep Elf Mercenary, one that's not been summoned by Ash the Bandit Prince. But we've also got Shadow Rake. I was going to say Shadecaster, but Shadecaster's over here. He's already taken a bunch of damage from something or other. We're a little bit late to this game, a few minutes, but it seems like it's at a decent point to start recording. We've got banners holding down the top fonts, and nothing much has happened yet. But the Shadecaster has taken, quite a bit of damage from something. Maybe there's a head of Osirius somewhere, stealthed. But it seems like Minotaur Mage Knight coming out here for Badgerale. And he's a pretty good rune. I've tried him out a little bit in UD meta, which is what I'm assuming Badgerale is playing here. Got Shadow Rake and, the cheap Deep Elves. But I don't usually take adaptive, but he seems like a good cheesy lockdown unit against 2x2s with Flame Prison. And then, he's kind of tanky, 3 defense, regen 3, a little bit more durable than the average UD champion is. And Badgerale has also chosen Block as one of the upgrades. So we've got some magic damage going down here from the Angel of Death onto the Shadow Rake there. And Hermaios has also got a Corruptor, so I was thinking at the start here that Badgerale might be in for a tough time because that Shadecaster was in stasis, slowing down his early advance a bit. And now that that Shadow Rake has been slowed down yet again with the Mind Shackle, as the Shadecaster teleports around evasively in that font, just making it a little bit more difficult for Badgerale to chase him down. But Corruptor could easily get a harvest off if Badgerale isn't careful. He's going to have to. The Shadow Rake does have Pawn, which Hermaios will have to play around. But as Forsaken Waste, you do have quite a bit of options to deal with things like that. You could go with like Soul Reave, which is, funny enough, isn't necessary in this case because both of these champions have Corruption. So and Corruption gets around Pawn because it is not damage; it's loss of life. So there we see the Mind Slicer Boomerang going out, reverberating around everything, and actually detecting his own Deep Elf Scout, which I completely missed, was actually on the board here. But it does reveal the Scout. I mean, the Scout is within striking distance of that font, so Hermaios will have to respond on his next turn, lest it be captured. So the Mind Slicer will allow Badgerale to cut right through that Shadow Rake and take the font with the Mercenary. And as well as blocking off these champions a little bit with the Shadow Rake. The damage, of course, unparalyzing it from the Mind Shackle. So these Shadow Rakes and his the Shadow Rake proper and his goon squad of clones will waylay these two units. And Hermaios, I feel like, might still be able to get the harvest here if he has like a Bazaar to give the Corruptor some AP, but then of course he won't be able to actually contest the font in any way. So he's going to have to make some hard decisions here. He also has to deploy up top to prevent that Scout from contesting. Meanwhile, Mage Knight makes his advance towards the center of the map here, facing off against the Hermaios' newly deployed Excavator. And Excavator does have Punishing Aura for some nice little synergy with the Mind Shackle here. Angel of Death choosing not to corrupt herself quite yet. She's staying pure for the moment at full HP. And Hermaios just backs off his Corruptor, recognizing that he is not really in a good position to continue that assault towards mid. Instead choosing to deploy the Polluted Martyr up top to keep that Deep Elf Scout at bay. I'd say Martyr is a great option here. I mean, it's 2x2, so it keeps the Scout from dropping a relic or anything. And also it has short-lived as well as Soul Sift 2, so by the time it finishes off that Scout and dies, it will have refunded a large chunk of its cost, meaning that Badgerale's 55 Nora Scout versus the Polluted Martyr, I think it goes down to like 46 or something, so he'll have actually come out ahead in terms of Nora by defending that font with the Martyr. But we do see a little bit more damage coming down onto the Shadow Rake, and going off from the Shadow Rake onto the Excavator, followed immediately by a sacrifice. Badgerale does not want to risk getting Soul Harvested here. I find it interesting that Soul Harvester actually is I'm pretty sure it's the only ability in the game where the icon actually changes with rank. Because rank 1 Soul Harvester has the same icon as Corruption does, but rank 2 has this icon here, which I think it's a little bit neat. I think we could maybe do with a little more of that. What was that? Rapid Assault. No, come on, that's not a real rune. Nah, I don't believe it. So Badgerale deploying Maxeric here, and somehow he gains 7 AP. And Equalize. Equalize is an ability that used to be on a bunch more champions, like Ward of Idler, and the Laos rune, and well, that's the only one off the top of my head that I can remember, but it's an old ability. So gains 20% Nora refund when it comes into play if your champions are outnumbered, which at the time Badgerale's weren't, so he didn't actually get the refund there, which would have been nice for a 100 Nora cost Maxeric. But the mercenary beckons him in, and Maxeric promptly does a set ablaze onto that Excavator, spelling his demise to the Scoured from the previously sacrificed Shadow Rake. So we'll see if Hermaios can somehow come back from this. He's definitely in a Nora hole at the moment. But once that polluted martyr dies, he'll maybe be a little better off. If he can get some soul harvests here, using maybe like an essence drain on that Mage Knight with a Bazaar thrown in onto the Angel, I mean, he could maybe make up some ground. But the Hunter Quick on the lesser Shadow Rake summon, actually preventing the kill. But I guess that's fine. I mean, he gained 4 HP on his Corruptor with Twisted Essence from that. So Corruptor just the slightest bit healthier. So Martyr keeping his eyes fixated on that Deep Elf Scout there, as well as a Death Harvester actually coming in. Maybe a little bit. Well, I mean, it's probably a good time because Martyr is going to die soon, and I feel like at this point Hermaios is only going to be able to afford cheapy champions like Broken Bones and such, champions that will most likely die quickly. So Death Harvest going to be generating a little bit of Nora for Hermaios there. Of course, the problem with Forsaken Waste into Maxeric is that Maxeric's sacrificial power will reduce his cooldowns by a lot every time a champion dies. And Forsaken Waste, the way Forsaken Waste tends to play with all their cheap runes, all their cheap meat, their efficient champions, they can really feed into Maxeric. I mean, if you've ever played Skeletons against Maxeric, you know it's not a fun time. So we got the Flame Prison onto that Corruptor there, doing a bit of fire damage, preventing him from, well, not really preventing, just sort of deterring his retreat. Is still in a position to get a double tap. Sorry, onto that Mage Knight on his next turn. So maybe we could see a harvest here, if Hermaios is willing to dump a spell into that. And he's going to have to decide soon. Okay, so, well, Bodyguard coming down onto what? Oh no, that was a Masochism. Okay, my bad. They have the same animation, or a similar animation anyway. A little shield pop up there, but Masochism goes down onto the Guardian, so that it redirects all damage that the Mage Knight would take to itself. And I wonder if that would still trigger a Soul Harvest if Corruptor got the last hit. I don't think it would. I don't think I've ever seen that interaction before. But because of that, Badgerale is able to walk his Scout over the lava and actually contest that font for a turn, forcing the Martyr to keep chasing after it, wasting its time. Its valuable short-lived time. But you know what they say, the light that burns twice as bright burns half as long. So we've got the Scout is dead anyway. It's gonna die, but he did drain 12 Nora at least from that font. And there is an Ancient's Protection stopping a sacrifice, actually. So I'm assuming Badgerale was trying to sacrifice either the Scout or the Guardian. Probably the Scout, right? So that he doesn't... well, no, he's probably trying to sacrifice the Guardian. Well, I don't know. I'd probably go for the scout, yeah. I was thinking, like, would he really want to sacrifice either of them? Like, the scout, I mean, he could sack it, but then the only reason you'd want to maybe do that is to avoid Hermaios getting the globe, but scout's all the way up here, so Badgerale can't get the globe anyway. But then you kind of want to keep your guardian alive, because, I mean, a 12 HP bodyguard is still worth something, right? But anyway, the Ancient's protection fizzles that, so we don't have to think about it anymore. And just watch as Scout takes one last futile swipe at that bird, trying to bat him out of the way there. But Bird will have his globe, whether he wants it or not. Mercenary sort of positioning defensively here, in case she has to beckon that Maxeric out of harm's way again. And the Angel of Death getting set ablaze by the Maxeric thanks to sacrificial power. So another death going down there up top. Yep. Martyr landing the last hit. I probably would have landed the last hit with the bird, I think. Just because, well, yeah, because like bird, I mean, bird doesn't really do any attacking, and Martyr, I guess if you moved Martyr down this way, you could maybe get one hit onto it before it dies with rotting blows. But it seems that that Corruptor is not long for this world either. He's on 2 HP, gonna take 1 from Chard. He hasn't gotten a single soul harvest off this whole game. And what is that? A Grave Watcher? No. I don't believe it. That's not a real rune either. So Grave Watcher, actually, probably the only other one of the few champions in the game that actually has a Declement 1 that's not like, you know, a Geharon or a Kanan. And I mean, I can kind of see why. Its signature is basically a reanimate on whatever you target. I've tried to break this rune a few times, mostly in a split with ST and retreat that sends it back to the rune dock, because normally when you exhume something, when the target dies, it kills the Grave Watcher and puts it on a 20-turn cooldown. But if you use retreat on it and send it back, you can redeploy it, and then the first exhume won't actually trigger the Grave Watcher's death, which is a neat little combo. One that unfortunately we won't get to see here, because Hermaios is not splitting with ST. But he does put the reanimate onto the Corruptor. I mean, assuming he did. Otherwise, like, why deploy it, right? So the reanimate goes down, trying to keep the Corruptor alive. But the Angel of Death has breathed her last breath, thanks to the CC from Set Ablaze. But I mean, I gotta say, that was a nice little combo from Badgerale, getting the rapid assault onto Maxeric, and then immediately relocating him in for a Set Ablaze on one of Hermaios' champions. It's a nice little surprise tactic. A lot of Underdepths players could do well to utilize. So there goes the Grave Watcher, killing off itself to reanimate the Corruptor. But of course, at this point, I mean, I don't really see a reanimated Corruptor as being entirely useful to Hermaios all on its own. So there goes the Martyr, again reducing Maxeric's cooldowns. And yeah, that Corruptor respawned in probably the worst possible place for it to go. Right next to Maxeric, right next to the Mercenary, and right next to the Fire Ruby. So despite being reanimated, his second life will be as useless as the first. Yeah, I mean, Hermaios will get the globe, thanks to the Despoil that he cast, but, I mean, at this point, Badgerale's probably just going to overrun Hermaios with champions, thanks to the Dark Summons here from Maxeric. I think he's going to get another one on his next turn, because the Martyr died, and then the Grave Watcher plus the Corruptor died on Hermaios' well, at the end of Badgerale's turn. So yeah, he should be ready to deploy another champion. I think he deployed an Imp last time, didn't he? Because yeah, a Shadow spawned Imp. So Badgerale not actually running any more viable targets for summons other than the Imps. Which, I mean, you know, Imps are definitely better than nothing. I mean, they come in with upgrades, they come in stealthed. They're, you know, they're good to have. So Hermaios deploying Zulos the Glorious, the limited edition Zulos, with Coercive Pact and Glorious Drain special abilities, and then Transfiguring. So he's in it for the long game here. He's not planning on surrendering, and he's actually going to Moby. I mean, this might be okay if he can he disengage with his Corruptor is the question. If He can disengage with the Corruptor? He can. Alright. I was thinking deploy order might screw him here, but he disengages with the Corruptor. Planning to get a Corrupt Blast here. Okay, or not. I guess he's just gonna... I was thinking he might try and harvest the Maxeric with a Corrupt Blast and then an attack from Corruptor and maybe a spell or something, but he just goes for the safe bet and harvests the Mercenary, which, you know, it's better than having no Nora, right? Fire Ruby taking a shot at that Avatar, not quite being backed off far enough, and then after the Dark Summons, Badgerale takes the game. Hermaios realizing that he has lost. So great play from both sides, and we'll see everyone in the next one.